I'm writing this book right now about my best friend who passed away suddenly when he was 28. He was whitewater rafting, and then boom, he just had a stroke and unfortunately didn't make it. ICU, whole thing, traumatic experience, as a friend, and way more obviously traumatic for him and his family. And but I'm writing a book about him, and I actually went to Tennessee. I went to Tellico Plains last year in September to stay at the cabin that he was at on that trip that he was on. And it was really special because I got to see kind of what he saw for like the last, 3 days of his life, and got to really take that in and write about it. And it felt really great. It was almost like kind of a healing moment because I was facing those inner hurts and those questions I had for God. And to be real though, and I did good. I wrote like 20,000 words in 7 days, which was really solid. That's kind of what I did for my first book, 21 Days in Africa. It was like 3,000 words ish a day, going hard, hammering it out. And but when I got back, dude, it was like hard to get into the book because it's like I'm busy with life, and it's almost like you saying the emotions, you got to face them. It's like I didn't honestly want to, number one, because it's like, yo, let me go to the pits of like the heart to like write this when I also got like work and podcast and family. It's like I almost don't have time to be like facing those emotions. I feel I'm too booked to deal with this. You know what I mean? Like my calendar's too full to feel things right now, Right. So, and I think that's something that probably a lot of people deal with as well in this busy world that we're living in, and this constant like need to be on the hamster wheel, and also the economy's hot trash right now. So it's like people having to work side jobs and extra jobs and do all these things to be able to just get by and put food on the table, that it's like, bro, our mental health and our emotional health have been put in the back seat and maybe even in the trunk as of late.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. We're so busy that, who's got time to feel? Like,
exactly.
Sometimes we're purposely overscheduling ourselves so that we don't have to feel, but other times it's just life. You got work, you got family, you got a sport, whatever it is. Like, who's got time for that? Because I bet you that writing the process of you being in that cabin where your friend was and writing all that, I bet you that was incredibly therapeutic and cathartic.
Absolutely.
And I also bet that when you tried to go back into quote unquote your normal routine, I bet you probably were kind of feeling a little shaky inside just because you had stirred up so much stuff that had been dormant for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And even now I'm working on it. It's almost, I thought I kind of came to this revelation yesterday, so I'm kind of like speaking in real time with you here about just the experience of writing the book. I actually posted like a little snippet yesterday on our website as like the introduction, and I planned on adding more to like the first part of it, but then I realized like, man, if I keep having to add to it, like almost as if the back half, then it's almost like I'm not going to know like when to stop, you know what I mean? Because you can go on all day, so I kind of came up with a plan yesterday to just start editing it and then adding to it as I edit, instead of just going like to the back of it and trying to add stuff while back home and leaving kind of what I wrote there as the meat and potatoes while also being able to add in. So it was really cool because I feel like God gave me kind of like a window of how to like go about it now being back home, because it was really challenging. I would like go on a Monday at like 3 p.m. for an hour and just focus on it and try to write it. But it's like that little tiny window is not enough time to like get this thing done. So I'm like, all right, I need to step it up, and like this is a good way to do it. But also it is like you're saying, is facing that pain and stirring up those things that are dormant. And there's one thing that I wrote in the introduction, bro, that I think you'd really be able to speak on. Losing him with grief and the pain, it was so real. It was so tangible. It was so heavy that honestly, it opened up all these other wounds that I had from my past that I was really good at burying, that I was really good at not bringing to the surface. And it's almost like that first hole like leaked up and like water flew out of it, water being tears. And then all these other holes got exposed because of that one hole getting exposed. So do you have any insights about that, into why that is and why the grief might lead to those other pain holes rising to the surface?
Oh man, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said it. And the most important part of that, of what you just said, is you allowed that first bit of tears, that first bit of water to come through, because most people won't allow that first one to happen. We just work so hard at pushing that down, at stuffing it, drinking it away, sexing it away, whatever. It's always going to stay in there because it's not going anywhere until we lean in and let it out. And then once we let that first bit of pressure out, all these other parts of our body where all this other junk has been stored up, it starts to wake up and realize, oh my gosh, like Zach's paying attention to us. Finally, we've been begging for him to lean in and face this stuff. And now he's finally doing it. And so you just start to get this relief. And most people tell me, like, once they allow that first bit of emotion to come out, once they face it for the first time, that's the most difficult part, because the rest of it, they start to come alive again. As more and more stuff comes out, they feel like their real version of themselves, maybe for the first time ever, or at least for the first time in a long time. And grief, like you said, man, that is, I still don't know of an experience that takes more of a toll on us as humans than grief. And so often we just don't actually grieve. You know, we'll give words to it. We'll say, yeah, I'm really sad, I miss them, or I'm disappointed this happened, whatever. But we don't actually let our body tell us what's going on inside of it. And that's one of the things, if I could speak to more men about this, is that the stuff from our past, if you just talk about it, you're not going to really do much healing of it. Just talking doesn't heal it. But getting into the body and letting those sensations actually talk a little bit and letting those emotions come through, that's what does the healing. Because, you know, people will talk to me and they'll say, well, I don't want to do therapy because, you know, all I do is they want me to talk about my trauma and that's it. I'm like, well, yeah, I wouldn't blame you, because just talking about your trauma does nothing. It actually can re-traumatize you. And so it's all about, let's check in with our body and see what our body is trying to tell us. Sometimes it's going to be unpleasant physical sensations. Other times we actually might tune into something that we didn't know was there that's ready to help us. Like the crash course in this, when God says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made and that he knit together all of our parts, he doesn't just mean our body parts. He means there's literally parts inside of us that have different roles. So, wow. You know, if you ever had a decision to make and it's a tough decision, I bet you there's at least two parts of you that are probably opposing one another. One part wants you to do this, the other part wants you to do that. And so you got this internal friction. And a lot of times it's probably 3 or 4 different parts that are arguing with each other. And if you kind of tune into that, you realize, oh yeah, God has made me so complexly that it's not just me and my voice. There's actually literally other parts in me. And if we just ignore those, then our emotions are unpleasant and our thoughts are unpleasant. But if we connect with those, we feel and think so much better.
Any advice on connecting with those and being more mindful of their existence and making room for them? What do you think?
Yeah, so one of my favorite apps is by John Eldredge. It's the 1 Minute Pause app. And you can do 1 minute, you can do 3 minutes, I think all the way up to like 10 minutes. And he just guides you through mostly silence, but it's a mixture of silence and prayer. And so if you don't want something that's prayer-based, there's things like the Calm app or the Headspace app, and they can just guide you through little steps, like taking you through a quick body scan for 60 seconds, just telling you, looking for like tension anywhere from your head to your chest, your stomach, kind of the major areas where you might feel some emotions. But for men especially, we don't have that skill or that muscle built up of finding the physical sensations in our bodies, because so often we just kind of disconnect ourselves from our body and we just live from our head and intellectualize everything so that we don't have to feel. But as soon as we start to build that skill of like, oh, I noticed that when, you know, she said that to me, my stomach started to like get queasy. I don't really know why. Like, those are the practices. That's just that building the muscle of like, oh yeah, my body's responding to what just happened around me.
Thank you so much for supporting our YouTube channel. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and smash that like button. If you would like to see another short clip from this episode, you can do so here. Or if you want to see the full conversation, you can do so here. And make sure you subscribe on Patreon if you'd like to partner with us. You can do that at the link in the description of this video. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.